Hi there, friend. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're listening while curled up with a warm drink, walking beneath tall trees, or just resting your eyes for a bit, this story is for you. It's a soft, heartwarming little journey about something we all cherish deeply, a best friend. And don't worry, this one is gentle, peaceful, and perfect for all ages. Let me take you back to where it all began. It was late spring when I moved to the little town of Maplewood. The kind of town that looked like it was drawn in colored pencil, with white fences, flower-filled windows, and winding cobblestone paths that led through sleepy neighborhoods. My new home was a tiny brick cottage at the edge of a forest, where birds sang in the morning, and the sky turned orange and lavender each evening. The move had been quiet and a little lonely. The cottage was beautiful, with ivy crawling over the walls and a garden that had clearly been loved once, but the silence inside felt heavy. I'd always imagined moving to a small town would be like walking into a storybook, but I hadn't yet found the part where the main character meets someone who changes everything. Then came the knock on the door. I was in the middle of planting lavender when I heard it. Soft and polite. I wiped my hands on my apron and opened the door to find a girl around my age standing there, holding a plate of cookies and wearing the widest, sunniest smile I'd ever seen. "Hi, I'm Lily. I live in the cottage down the lane," she said cheerfully, her eyes sparkling. "I saw someone move in, and I thought cookies help." They did. We sat on the porch, sipping lemonade and nibbling her still warm sugar cookies. Lily talked like we were already friends. She told me about the hidden path behind my cottage that led to a wildflower field, the little tea shop in the village square, and her cat named Moon who only came home when it rained. There was something about her that made everything feel lighter, like the sunshine had followed her in and made itself comfortable. That afternoon, she invited me for a walk. "Come on," she said, taking my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I'll show you the best secret in Maplewood." We wandered down a winding forest path, soft moss underfoot, birds flitting above us. The trees were tall and leafy, and golden sunlight spilled between the branches like warm honey. Eventually, we reached a small clearing with a wooden bench, tucked beneath a blooming dogwood tree. There was a tiny stream nearby, and you could hear the water humming over smooth stones. Lily sat down and patted the space beside her. "This is my favorite thinking spot," she said, "but it's even better with company." We sat there for a long time, not talking much, just listening to the forest. And somehow, even though we had just met, it felt like I'd known her for years. It was the beginning of something special. The kind of friendship that grows slowly, like ivy on stone, steady, strong, and beautiful. And that was just the first day. It had been a few weeks since I met Lily. Since then, life in Maplewood had become softer. Mornings started with her cheerful knocks on my door, and often ended with tea on her porch, watching Moon the cat chase moths in the garden. We took long walks through the woods, stopped by the tea shop for warm scones, and shared silly stories from our childhoods. One morning, Lily showed up wearing a floppy straw hat and a mischievous grin. "Don't ask questions," she said. "Just bring a blanket and wear good walking shoes." I followed her out of town, through the whispering woods and across a narrow stone bridge I hadn't noticed before. Birds chirped from high above, and every now and then, a soft breeze would carry the scent of wild roses. I didn't ask where we were going, I trusted her, and that trust felt light and lovely. After about an hour of walking and giggling over nothing in particular, we reached a wide, open meadow hidden deep in the forest. It was like something out of a storybook. Tall grass danced in the wind, dotted with bluebells and daisies. In the middle of it all sat a little patch of shade beneath a twisted willow tree. "This," Lily said, spreading out the blanket, "is our new picnic spot." From her backpack, she pulled out wrapped sandwiches, cut fruit, tiny jars of lemonade, and even a little wooden box filled with cookies. "I packed your favorite," she added with a smile. I didn't even know I told her what my favorite cookie was, but I had, and she remembered. We lay on the blanket, watching the clouds drift by like paper boats. Sometimes we talked about nothing at all. Other times, we asked each other quiet questions. "What's your favorite memory?" Or, "If you could live in a treehouse, What would it look like? It was simple, gentle, the kind of day that settles in your soul and stays there. At one point, Lily sat up and pulled something from her pocket, a tiny, hand-carved charm in the shape of a star. "It's for you," she said, placing it in my palm. "So you always remember where your light comes from." I didn't say much, just smiled and nodded, holding the charm tightly. Because some moments don't need big words. As the sun dipped low, casting gold across the meadow, we packed up and walked back in quiet contentment. Fireflies began to blink in the trees, and the air smelled of moss and clover. By the time we reached my cottage, the sky was painted in soft purples and blues. "I'm glad you moved here," Lily said, giving my hand a squeeze before turning down the lane toward her own home. I stood on the porch for a while that night, watching the stars and thinking about how strange and wonderful life can be. One minute you're planting lavender alone, and the next, you're sharing cookies in a secret meadow with someone who feels like home. The days with Lily slipped by like pages in a well-loved book. Summer arrived softly in Maplewood, painting the skies in soft blues and gold, and our days settled into a rhythm as comforting as a favorite song. Morning walks, forest picnics, cat chasing, tea shop visits, rainy days with board games, and long evenings beneath the starset all became part of a beautiful routine. Then one day, Lily knocked on my door holding a large cloth-covered book. "I made something for us," she said, her cheeks pink with excitement. "It's not finished. It'll never really be finished. But I want you to see it." She handed it over gently, like it was something sacred. I opened the cover and gasped. Inside were hand-drawn illustrations, pressed wildflowers, Polaroids of silly faces and sunsets, ticket stubs from the spring fair, and little scribbled notes in Lily's handwriting. On one page was a leaf from our forest walk. On another, a napkin from the tea shop with a doodle of moon curled up on a table. She even saved the tiny paper tag from the lemonade jar at our picnic. Each page was a memory. There were spots still blank, with little handwritten prompts. Draw what the garden looks like in autumn. Write a poem about our bench under the dogwood. Add your favorite quote. "It's our memory book," she said softly. "A place for all the little things we might forget later. I wanted you to have it, so we always remember how this friendship began." I didn't say anything at first. I just flipped through the pages, feeling tears sting behind my eyes, but not sad ones. These were the kind that came from a full heart. "Do you like it?" she asked. I hugged her tight. "I love it." From that day on, we kept adding to the book. Every season brought new pages, autumn leaves pressed flat between laughter, winter sketches of snowy hills and mugs of cocoa, springtime haikus about muddy boots and fresh tulips. The book grew fat and slightly messy, pages crinkled from dried flower petals, others marked with smudges from cookie crumbs or teardrops from days we didn't want to end. But it was ours, a living piece of our friendship. Years later, when life pulled us in different directions and our paths weren't quite as closely twined, we still sent each other pages in the mail. A pressed daisy, a scribbled poem, a photo of a cat that reminded one of us of Moon. And whenever the world felt too big or too fast, I'd pull out the book, turn to a random page, and remember that the best kinds of friendships are the ones that grow in quiet places between tea and trees, in laughter and lemonade, in shared silence and soft goodbyes. Thanks so much for being here and listening to this gentle little story. I hope it reminded you of someone special or maybe made you think about the kind of friend you'd like to be. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back soon for more peaceful, heartfelt stories. Until next time, stay kind, stay cozy.